I cannot stand going and listening to people speak or watch different things when they give you, like, they're great at speakers, right? They're great at the raw and the showboat shit. Like, like, I want the real raw. Tell me what I need to do, right? Like, to give me different actionable ideas. I don't want, not even ideas. Like, I don't want this fluff. I want, like, do this takeaways, right? Like, that I can implement, and tools I can actually implement to help in technology and get me there way quicker. I remember when we were doing one of the trainings, I think it was Donna, and we were showcasing one of our training software that we use, Tango. And, like, she was so quiet the entire time. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, that right there is worth everything. Every single penny should
Worth the price of admission.
Right. That was worth the price of admission right there. She said, I don't, even if I don't learn anything else, this right here, this 15 minutes is changing my life. I'm like, huh. I mean, that gave me chills of, like, something so small for somebody that deals with it day in, day out and knows the struggles with it, that we just saved you umpteen hundred thousands of hours of training. Like, yes, totally worth it. Right.
Welcome to the Leading Lane podcast for real estate pros by real estate pros with your hosts, Ashley Frederick and Stephen Birch. If you're looking for an honest, authentic, and raw perspective, you found it.
Welcome everyone back to the Leading Lane podcast. And this week we are going to talk about an upcoming retreat that Leading Lane will be putting on. It's called the Broker FastTrack, and it is a 3-day event, obviously geared toward broker owners. There's so much to know. My famous quote is, you don't know what you don't know. So Stephen, this was your concept. Can you tell us a little bit about what this entails for someone that might be interested in attending?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one we have coming up is actually an exclusive Next Home Broker FastTrack Retreat. Leading Lane has created a partnership in a lot of the different things that we are rolling out and working with them. So this next one is exclusive for Next Home Broker owners and managers. Really, the concept behind it is, like, I don't feel that there's a book out there. There's not a true training, or at least one that I ever could find, of how do you actually run and operate a company, right? And, I think a lot of people, when they first hear about the Broker FastTrack Retreat, they, like, oh, like, I'm going to get all of these crazy checklist and all these tactics on how to sell more real estate. And, like, they don't really come in and approach it in the right way, in my opinion. I think that really what they leave with is things that they never even thought of, the things that they never realized that they were doing themselves as individuals and as leaders. And do we have the checklist? Of course. Do we have the different tactics? Of course. But a lot of it, that first day, is a crazy amount of self-reflection and self-identity work of really what you are after. So, I mean, you attended now a few times that we have done this. What do you think that people, when they first sign up, what do you think that they're truly thinking they're going to get out of the retreat?
I think it's funny. I think that they're just thinking, like, yeah, maybe you'll get some tips or tricks of, what's working for someone else, right? Like a very quick thing. I think most people actually probably don't know exactly what they're expecting, and the fact of, like, Broker FastTrack, like, am I going to learn to do things differently? I think a lot of people think that it might be about recruiting solely, like, are you going to grow your business through recruiting? And I think that everyone that comes would tell you that it's completely different than what they expected. But I also think that it's important that it is an in-person event. So I have done my fair share of online trainings. I think we all have, like, everything's switched to module base or webinars. And I think that serves its purpose for sure. But when you're talking about your brokerage and you're trying to figure out things that you're doing that maybe aren't working well, or again, never thought about doing it that way. Those conversations only happen when you're in person. Those conversations, many times, they're during a break, or we go out to dinner later at night. Many times it's through the course. If people want to, speak up, we'll try to pen people to, it's got to be engaging. And I think that that's when other people start to chime in and we'll be like, well, I do this, or I never thought about doing this, or I'm afraid to do this because what if my agents think this, or what if my brokerage, the looks different in my town compared to others. So the in-person part of it, I think, is key. The other thing about the in-person, which I have found to be really great, is that you create connections with people that you might not have ever met before. And it's on a different level, right? You're not at a conference where like it's hoorah the whole time. You're actually in this like deep in-depth reflection of what you've been doing, what you were taught, which may or may not have been correct, and then now a new way of doing it. And it's not like you can just turn a switch on and all these things happen overnight. It takes time to implement a lot of these things. And I think that that's where having those people that you can also reach out to afterwards. But now those are the friends that when you are at conference and you're at hoorah, like, yep, I've spent 3 days with them. I know their whole entire business inside and out. And it's a different type of relationship.
Right. And I think it's fun because when you get these people to all come, it's in Manhattan, Kansas. It's in our Junction City office as well. But we're rural town America. And so I think that as they fly in, on our airport, like the jokes of seeing the cattle and seeing the the hay and everything else, like we're legit in the middle of a field.
I have to say my favorite with that though was being at the airport with Leon. And he literally had to like FaceTime Lisa because he's like, you're never going to believe that there are only 2 gates at this airport. It was hilarious.
And wasn't he upset that there was not a restaurant in the airport?
Yeah. I was like, no, we got to eat before we get there.
So, I mean, I think it's like great because, like people see, that we're extremely successful. We sell a lot of real estate. We have a lot of transactions, a lot of agents. And so they think, oh, it's so easy. And, there's been a lot of trial and a lot of error, a lot of hard knock lives and a lot of crying and all of these things that go along with growing in a brokerage that you just had to learn because there's not any real guidance on the back end of things of how you operate a company. And so as people come here, like one of my favorite things is to be able to showcase when they leave, regardless if you're in a market, that is small like mine, small like ours, or you're in a large market, right? Like you can't have these limiting beliefs of that will never work here. That's never the way that our market is because you just don't understand our market. And a lot of times, that first day, we really cut through a lot of bullshit stories of what are we really telling ourselves of why I can't grow, why I'm struggling. And, we're identifying truly where do you want to be able to go? And so if we can eliminate those bullshit stories and we know a clear path of where you want to be able to go, now we just need to be able to close the gap. And that's where then, the second day, we go to the Junction office and we open up and showcase, our relationships with title companies and our relationships with different lenders, right? Like, and how you can have other income line items into your business and stack this to where that it'll now allows you to either step out of the production if that's what you want to choose to do, or if you just are looking for other ways to cover overhead so that you could be more profitable. Then we, open up our sales meetings. I think that's probably one of the coolest experiences is that, our agents thankfully are very open. So the attendees of the Broker Fast Track get to experience truly how we run and operate our sales meetings, the structure of it, how we try to make sure that every single time that we have agents leaving with value. And then we open it up to where it's kind of a all gloves off, no topic with agents are off base, right? Like we're pulling back the curtains. We made the joke that it's just like the Wizard of Oz. We're truly pulling back the curtains to get to see behind the scenes. And our agents, we want them to tell the good, the bad, the ugly. We have high producers that have come over from other, franchises, and we talk about our experience of how we recruited them. We talk, the struggles of sometimes we have tiffs in the office and what that really looks like. And we always talk about that we have great culture, but that's the persona. But, there's things that do happen behind the scenes that we have to have hard discussions and reality checks. And one of my favorites was we had people, one of my favorites because I don't think it's talked about enough. And we actually had Andrina on here before as a guest, and her and a couple of other people were talking about their experience of diversity and the lack of, and how people treat them because they have different color skin than them, or a different background than them. And that first Broker Fast Track that we had a wonderful gal come in, and she opened up and shared her experience, the same of people are mean and racist, and they judge each other differently. And I remember after that session, there was a break, and one of the gentlemen that were attending pulled me aside, and he had tears in his eyes. Like he just came back in from the break, and he was like, I just had to call my wife and tell her, like, this has been game changer, because never thought about talking about or recognizing about race and culture and diversity. And we were so open and vulnerable. He was like, you don't see this anywhere. This is not something that is ever discussed, and definitely not ever open like this, to where people trust one another in a room to be that vulnerable. So, I mean, like, so I think, like, it goes to the real life atmosphere, and being able to, put that on a website. And how do you actually portray that? How do you show people that, hey, how you create culture and how you create the environment? You can only truly know how to do that once you experience it. Then you can go back and you can replicate that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think that one question I wanted to ask you is, how do you think that most people become a broker? Like, where are they coming from to become a broker?
I think that obviously they have sold real estate, right? And they're successful, and they're looking for that next step. So that may be that they're a high performer in sales production, and they want to go open their own because they want to make more money, or grow truly a brokerage. Or maybe it's a team lead that no longer wants to be under the umbrella of a different brokerage and wants to open up their own. I think very rarely is it truly a broker going over, broker to broker jumping. What I mean by that, like, we're a franchise owner. If I were to go jump to somewhere else and no longer be a franchise owner, like, it's not like I'm going to go open up a different franchise. I'm more than likely going to be absorbed inside of another company and work for a brokerage. Does that make sense of what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah, I mean, I think what people forget is that, correct, most brokers were originally a high producer, part of a team, or unhappy where they were, thought that maybe they'd have a better route. Someone talks to them about what it looks like to be the broker, but it's kind of like we talked about, the life of a top producing agent and the life of a broker are two different things. Yes, they can be coupled together, but you don't have a book that, like, you open your franchise on, like, day one, and it's like, okay, and this is how you run your profit and loss statements, and this is what you charge agents, and this is what you don't charge agents for, and this is how you recruit, and this is what you do for marketing. Like, there is no book for that.
I mean, if you think about it, like, if you're coming over, you can't just cut your lifeline of production, right? Like, it's not like you can say, oh, I'm going to be a broker now, I don't have to sell anymore. So now what you're doing is you're still trying to figure out, how do I maintain my regular book of business that I'm used to, while learning all new systems of how to sell, right? Like, and merge myself into the agent hat. And, when we first get started, like, yes, there's things that come at us. Like, there's different guides and things that, when you first start up, but you're so hyper-focused, at least I was so hyper-focused, as how in the world do I use these tools and tech to sell? Because if I don't sell, I can't pay my bills. And so it's almost this vicious cycle of that you can never get off of this merry-go-round. And because you're not focusing on new technology methods and ways to run and operate a totally different business, people never learn how to bridge that gap between production and brokerage. It's two totally different hats.
Yeah, I mean, like, when we started, I mean, it was two of us. A day later, it was three of us. I mean, we both all had to produce in order to keep our doors open. And I think when you do start fresh, right, like, a lot of times you'll have somebody that's coming over with you, or two or three people that are coming over with you, but you still have to, again, manage your business as far as producing. But then there's this whole other layer of when you start doing well, and then people start to like the culture, and then other agents want to join, which is great. And then you start, all of a sudden you turn around and you have 9 agents. Well, what does that look like on the back ends of, communication, of compliance,
Mhm.
and adding more staff? Like, oh, shoot, we probably need to hire an admin. We need to hire an office manager or marketing person. Like, all those things start to come in. And then, right, there are maybe things that are offered in your market and you need to figure out how to offer those or something complementary to that. And again, it's just a trial and error where if you go to an event like this, you kind of get this blueprint, if you will, of what's worked really well for your office. And, you've changed throughout the years many times and, picked up things from other offices along the way. And then it's that, but then you also have other people in the room that can chime in. And then, yeah, I mean, normally like everyone's just like literally like just like writing, like left and right, all these ideas. I think one of the things I enjoy the most is like a to-do list that is on the table. And I mean, I think I ended up on like 2 pages, and the thing is it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, like the first one I went to, I think 2 years ago, and I think on there, like I had a support email, like that was one thing I had in there. I mean, it fell on to the lower list of things, but as things happened, right, like we realized that needed to be bumped up as a priority, and I was able to talk to you about it because you implement those things. So I think that's the other part too, is that, there's one coming up in April, but then there's also a Broker FastTrack 2, which is for people that have attended the original Broker FastTrack. I think that that's going to be fantastic to, everyone's kind of had this, open view of what it looks like. What have you been able to implement? What have you struggled with? What are the new things that we've learned throughout the years? I think that it's just an ongoing basis. Like, we can't stop learning because things are changing. Real estate changes every single day. I mean, we're still dealing with lawsuit changes. I'm sure that there will be new things that are coming, right? So if we're not staying in touch and in tune with one another, and I think the way that you and I both look at it too is that by us pouring into other people, it helps the industry as a whole. And we want to see other people that, then they can affect their market. They can pour into other people in their market. And that's how we change an industry for the better.
100%. And that's really, I mean, the ultimate goal is if we can save and help the next person not go through the same struggles, or at least give them guidance on the struggles, or, like, I mean, if we can shorten that gap, if we can take the last 10 years that I've been doing this and I can try to, put everything in structure, and you take away just a little smidget of it, and it saves you a little bit of time and it gets you there quicker, where you, like, that is the goal, right? Like, and so I think that also with this too is that because I mean, learners are earners, right? Like, I know it's cheesy, but like, it's the truth. The people that are actually constantly learning and evolving, like implementing and evolving, are the ones that are going to earn more. And the industry is changing so rapidly, way more than it has ever in previous, history. If you're not going to shift and pivot now, is that a struggle for the future, right? If you're already struggling, imagine where you're going to be at in another year, 2 years, 3 years. But if we can get you on the fast track to be able to get the right way to your profitability, or increase it, or efficiency, like, I'm here for it, right?
Well, I think a lot of brokers get like lost in the weeds, right? And I think we talked about, like, we definitely spend some time on retention. That's the piece, and recruitment. But there are other ways to be profitable besides that. And in working with our office, we were able to make, I mean, probably like 3 minimal changes that greatly affected our bottom line, for the positive. And that was just it. It was just a way of thinking that we hadn't done. And so when you have an outsider that's willing to, take a look at what you're doing and be like, did you think about doing this? And here it changes the, trajectory of what you're doing. And it was just a simple change that you didn't know or didn't think about doing.
It's the aha moments, right? Like, anytime I speak, anytime that I do a training or an event like this, like, I'm so big on actionable items. I want to make sure that anybody that is listening to me, anybody that is involved in the training, they at least have a clear idea of what they need to accomplish. I cannot stand going and listening to people speak or watch different things when they give you, like, they're great at speakers, right? They're great at the raw and the showboat shit. Like, like, I want the real raw. Tell me what I need to do, right? Like, to give me different actionable ideas. I don't want not even ideas. Like, I don't want this fluff. I want, like, do this takeaways, right? Like, that I can implement, and tools I can actually implement to help in technology and get me there way quicker. I remember when we were doing one of the trainings, I think it was Donna, and we were showcasing one of our training software that we use, Tango, and like, she was so quiet the entire time, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh my god, that right there is worth everything, every single penny." Should
Worth
it
the
mean
price of admission.
right? That was worth the price of admission right there. She said, "I don't even if I don't learn anything else, this right here, this 15 minutes is changing my life." I'm like, huh. But I mean, that gave me chills of like something so small for somebody that deals with it day in, day out and knows the struggles with it, that we just saved you umpteen hundred thousands of hours of training. Like, yes, totally worth it, right? Like, and I think it's just those different things. Everybody's coming to the table in different spaces, different placements in their journey, in their career, different backgrounds. And so that means that every single person is going to take something completely different away. It's not a one size fits all, that you're going to come here and you're going to, like, I don't know it all. So that does not mean that you're going to walk away with agreeing with 100% of every single thing that I'm going to say. But
Mm-hmm.
what I do really love doing as well, and I always ask permission to people that have worked with me, is I'm very blunt and honest and upfront, coming from a caring, I try to come from a caring, passionate, place. But sometimes there's chin checks. Sometimes there's times to look in the mirror, and I'm, as the trainer, the facilitator here, like, I'm not afraid to challenge you. You're not paying me just to
Clap for
and
you.
check it
Mm-hmm.
off
Oh,
the
looks good.
checklist in the fluff. Like, you're paying me to come and change your future. You're paying me to not be your friend. I'm here to help you be better. And you have to be open minded, open hearted, to be able to be in the right space to receive that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes a little bit for some people to take a day or two to start seeing of the different method and approach that I have to be able to deliver this type of message.
I think the other thing too is that, you have to remember that in business, like, you have to invest money in yourself and in your brokerage if you truly want to, like, that's the way I look at it. You have to invest money to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to invest money to do things different. If you've been doing the same thing over and over every day and seeing the same results, then you need to do something. So I think that that's the other thing is, I think that it's a fairly small investment to be able, I mean, it's like what, Donna said, the price of admission, but then you put that over a 6-month period and it's like triple of, and then over time it becomes like hundreds of thousands of dollars, even if it was the right way to recruit another agent or, changing something in your books. And again, like, that small amount that you decided to invest into yourself and into your future can change the way that your business runs moving forward.
Right. And, with that being said too, like, we started just like you, right? Like, a handful of people. And now we have, the whole property management division. We have multiple other ventures. We have 30 some agents. And, some of the things that a lot of people come here for is like, how do I grow and how do I scale? And a lot of that is empowering your people and hiring the right people to be able to do that. So we have, just like with our agents, we have our staff. So our director of operations, our property manager, our marketing director, our director of member relations, like, everybody is here at one point or another, and you get to talk to them, and we open up the good, bad, and ugly with them as well, because we are so hyper focused, I think, at first about our agents and growing by recruitment. Well, growing on the back end of getting the shit off of your plate that you shouldn't be doing, so you can go spend time recruiting, so you can go spend time doing that production, the things that are actually making you money, not sitting behind a computer on Canva, or not behind the computer doing, compliance, administrative shit. Like, get that stuff off of your plate so that if you truly are looking to be able to scale, you can.
You make the prime example of, when you were having me write down things that I was doing, and then you would, your face tells it all, just like mine. And you'd be like, you're doing what? Is there someone else that could do that? And it's just, that's the other thing, right? Is right, as a broker, like, you're used to being in control, like, you like things a certain way. But as you start to look at what that looks like on a big scale, like, yeah, I probably don't need to be doing the floor schedule. I don't necessarily need to be sending out all payments, those types of things, and when you start to remove those, that really gives you time to focus on what you want to. And it could be, in your personal sales, it can be within the brokerage, it can be other, things within the office, just as far as agent development, when you actually have that extra bit of time.
Yeah. So if like 2 or 3 takeaways, like what are some of the things you've been to multiple of these with me, and you've worked with me on a one-on-one client side of things as well, but what are 2 to 3 things that you feel that are most important that you've taken away from one of the Broker Fast Track retreats or from attending?
That's a good one. I think that it is probably some of the empowerment, so I think that change is hard for anyone. And, implementing that change is hard, but when you're in a room full of other people that are looking to implement the same changes, like, that you won't be alone, if you will. So I think that, really using our staff for what they are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing too, is you have your staff there at the retreat, and you can kind of hear a little bit about what they do, their goals. And I think hearing that, like, it was okay for me to like start to give some of those things up, but also to empower them to make decisions on their own, to stop the hand holding, that was a really big thing. And I think, for staff and agent growth, that helps in the big picture. I mean, technically these agents are running their own business.
Right.
So we want to make sure that they feel confident in those decisions. I think the other thing is just really like reminding yourself that maybe what you were doing, it has worked.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. Years removed from that, they've impacted the way that we do everyday business. But I think the last part of that too is just the connections that you make, where they'll lead you later in life. Other opportunities that those people can introduce you to, or that you can help them further. And then, we talk about it, and it's lonely at the top, if you will. But it's also just kind of lonely in real estate. I mean, real estate is its own little animal, and you can't necessarily have those conversations with people that aren't doing it every single day,
Right.
that aren't running a brokerage, that aren't dealing with the, lawsuits that we've had to deal with and implement, or, changing systems. And those are big tasks. And I think that being able to now have more people in your network that you can reach out to and just be like, hey, are you seeing this? Or you have a problem with that? Like, that has been outstanding for me.
Yeah. And I think really to sum it up to me is you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're empowering the leadership aspect of things, and it's a lot of self-growth. And once you do the self-growth, you're now able to empower others, and create critical thinking team to really take you where you want to go by utilizing their strengths.
Yeah. So remind me, the April dates are?
Oh, that's a good question. I should know that, right off the top of my head. April 28th through the 30th. And then if you are interested, we're actually doing a special for the Next Home exclusive one for conference in New Orleans. So we'll have a discount code. So stop by the 021 Swag store and we can talk about that. Or I'll give you my personal cell. You can text me. And if you have questions, I'll give you different references. And there's tons of videos of different people that have attended of what they've taken away on the website. So my cell phone is 785-375-1940. And then you can go to leadinglaneco.com, click on the retreat, and then you'll have the full rundown of all the details of what's going on, what you'll learn, the different schedule, and then again, those videos of the testimonies of the previous attendees.
Great. We're looking forward to seeing all of you in April.
Let's go.